Gotcha! Hi, I'm Irving, and I have no life, just like you. In the next segment, you have to deal with strafing planes, tanks, minefields, you name it. This part feels an awful lot like filler, but it's decent filler and keeps the action going. Now here's something really great. At the end of the airport level, you can choose one of two vehicles. Either stay with the Jeep you rode in on, or you can take an enemy truck with a big flak gun on the back. Whichever one you choose, that's what your team will be in during the next level. The designers made the extra effort to code it with both vehicles to keep the continuity going. That's the kind of attention to detail that helps make this a truly excellent game. I should mention something else at this point. Every so often when you're in the middle of a battle, this happens. One of the enemy will just throw down his weapon and put his hands up and surrender. Now you have a choice. You can go ahead and shoot an unarmed opponent, or you can walk up to him and capture him. If you decide to capture, you tie his hands behind him and leave him there on his knees. What happens to him after that?
I'll tell you.
Come on, Tevye, we already did that joke. Anyway, after you capture him, you just go on. Even in missions where one of the goals is to kill all of the enemy, a capture counts as the same thing. It happens pretty much at random, and more than once I've only noticed that a guy had his hands up after I shot him because there was so much going on at the time. Shortly after I captured that guy you just saw, another one put his hands up, but I must have taken a little too long to get to him because suddenly he put his hands down and started running away. So what's he going to do? Find another weapon and keep fighting? I don't know. As soon as he took off running, I shot him. Mission accomplished. Once you've crossed the desert, you come to a huge oasis that the Germans have taken over. The Allies are going to need it, so it's your job to take it. There's about 30 Germans and 4 SAS, so the odds are just about right. Fortunately, your sniper, you always want to equip one guy with a sniper rifle, can take a bunch of them out from a distance, and from there it's just cleanup once you get inside. But you have a problem.
Come on, old girl, hold on for just a little longer. Damn it! Oh, blast! We were almost there.
Hence, part of the mission is to find a suitable vehicle so you can keep pursuing Schumann. When you take the Oasis, you find a mechanic who's working on a nice truck. You use the German radio to inform command that you're in control of the place, and they tell you that a ton of German reinforcements are coming to take it back. So yeah, you have it. Now you have to keep it. Oh, and the mechanic has to survive because he's still working on the truck. And by the way, the sun is setting, so this is going to be a night mission. There's one very curious aspect to this night mission. You have as long as you need to get ready for the Germans. The briefing gives you some idea what direction they'll be coming in. You can survey the walls of the Oasis and position your men to guard the places where they've fallen down, and you've gotten an airdrop of supplies, most notably several landmines and a bazooka with plenty of ammo. I like to experiment with different places to put my men and plant the mines just for fun. Be careful though, because not only are they bringing a buttload of soldiers, they also have an armored personnel carrier and a tank. Anyway, you get the mines planted, get your men equipped and positioned, and then you make another call on the radio to tell headquarters that you're ready for the German attack. Only then do the Germans start heading your way. Far-fetched? Sure. Playing fair? You bet. If a game threw all that stuff at me without some solid chance to get ready for it, I'd throw it out the window and apologize to whoever it hit. Protecting the mechanic is easy if you position your men in such a way that the Germans never have a chance to get inside the place. If they do get in, you might as well start the mission again because they'll go straight for him. Unless you can keep from destroying all of their vehicles, the tank doesn't count because there's no way you can take it from them, you're screwed. So the key to this mission is, don't let them inside! For the most part, you can ignore the tank until you've taken care of everything else, because all it does is pull around the side of the place and sit there. Then it's fairly easy to take it out with the bazooka. Keep out of its way while it's moving though, because that cannon will reduce you to your component parts before you can say don't do it. The briefing is a little off here, because it says to make use of the mounted German machine guns at the two corners of the complex. One is pointing right where the Germans are coming from, so you can rip a nice big hole in them with it as soon as you spot them. Trouble is, the tank is coming right behind them, and its AI is smart enough to target the machine gun as soon as it's in range. So yes, you can have one of your guys use the machine gun to slow the Germans down, and even take out most of their first wave. But as soon as you see the tank,
If you value your lives, be somewhere else.
the rest is basic gameplay, especially if you've got your men positioned well. Your AI squad is so much better in this game than in the previous one, it's hard to find words to describe it. They're also excellent shots, so if you have them in places where they can see the Germans coming, they'll take care of most of the foot soldiers while you're free to take the bazooka and concentrate on the APC and the tank. This level is a challenge and one of the most intense and interesting levels of the game, and the sense of satisfaction once you get word that the Germans are retreating is well worth the effort. So, having taken the Oasis, defended it from a German counterattack and procured a working vehicle, you're off to Dieburn Air Base to continue your pursuit of Hans Schumann. By now you may have forgotten about him, but the primary mission is still to capture him. You get into the base using your commandeered German truck and some German uniforms and forged papers. All that happens in a cutscene. The mission starts in a storage bunker on the base itself. So you go around and take out the German forces guarding the place, destroy the planes on the ground except for one 2-engine job, capture Schumann, and have him fly the plane out. Unfortunately, no matter how thoroughly you perforate the Germans in the control tower, one of them survives long enough to make a radio call and let nearby fighters know that they were attacked and a plane was taken. So now you have a dogfight on your hands. The next mission has you in the plane with Schumann flying dangerously close to the walls of a canyon while German fighters try to shoot you down. It's quite a change of pace. It's a pretty short level, but a serious challenge. It gives you some idea what airplane gunners went through in the days before heat-seeking missiles and computerized guidance systems. You have to try and figure out how far to lead the enemy plane, pump as many bullets as you can at him, and hope for the best. Those fighters are a lot more maneuverable than you are, so most of your shots will miss. But if you manage to shoot down one or cripple at least one fighter, you'll make it. Once you've negotiated the canyon and avoided the fighters, it's back to the cold north for your squad. Your job is to mine a couple of bothersome German ships and sneak onto one of them and steal the Enigma encoder. Ah, the Enigma. The stuff of legend. There have been more stories about how we got our hands on it and broke the code than almost any other event in World War II. The real story is actually pretty bland, which is probably why people keep coming up with better ones. The real Enigma was broken through the efforts of several teams of researchers, and a couple of captured machines played a part. So this mission could have happened, and it could have contributed to the breaking of the Enigma code. Good enough for me! The ship with the Enigma is a small minesweeper and is parked next to a major warship called the Tirpitz. In real history, the Tirpitz was the most feared of the German warships, even though it never actually fired its guns against another naval vessel. In the game, you and your men plant magnetic mines on its hull and sink it that way. In reality, an RAF bombing raid destroyed it. Hey, why let the facts get in the way of a good story?
This is the first chance to use your aqualungs. You move in on little 2-man submarines, then use your scuba gear. You can change speeds to some degree the same way you can on land. Notice that my fin kicks sped up a little there. So you make your way over to the ships where you plant the mines, which is obviously not as easy as it sounds.
You might find a bug here. Even with the patches installed, for some reason about half the time the game wouldn't register it when I planted the bomb on the minesweeper. So after you do that, check your objectives and make sure it acknowledges that you did this one. If it didn't, there isn't much you can do except start the mission over and keep trying until it registers. I'm not sure why this happens, but it probably didn't get fixed because it doesn't happen all the time. Hey, I just reports them, but doesn't explain them. The bulk of the mission happens on the minesweeper, where you have to move as silently as possible, take out the crew and steal the Enigma, all without alerting the Tirpitz. If there's too much shooting by the Germans, the Tirpitz is alerted and the mission fails. That's why you all have silenced weapons and have to plan your movements very carefully. The first time you play, expect this one to take several tries. You have to get incredibly creative, and that's one of the most fun aspects of this mission. It's short, but oh so sweet. From underwater in the fjords of Norway to the Jungle of Burma, you have 2 missions here. One raiding a Japanese camp of sorts to find out what they're up to, and another linking up with other British troops to storm a hilltop fortress. In both cases, the enemy is sneaky and comes out of nowhere, so you have to be on your guard every single second. The first task is to blow this bridge. Obviously, you want to be across it first. Into the camp, where you have to take out the Japanese soldiers guarding it, then figure out what's in all the crates. Here's a good example of an optional objective. They have a radio station here, and you get credit for destroying it. Since it's optional, you don't really lose anything if you bypass it or don't notice it, but it's fun to see if you can find all of the optional objectives in a mission. From what I can tell, they may help accelerate your promotions too. The assault on the bunker is a very different operation for our SAS guys because it's essentially a charge up a hill, and there's no real stealth involved. But again, that diversity helps keep the game interesting. The bunkers on the hill are kind of a maze, and figuring out where you are would probably be impossible without your map. And of course, there are enemies around every corner. Up on the surface, they like to pop out of these trap doors and shoot you before you realize they're there. It doesn't help that there's a heavy mist hanging over everything. You're making your way through tall grass, and your own artillery is shelling the hill and hoping they don't hit you. So you're wandering through this stuff, and either your character or one of your squad says something like, "Enemy spotted," and a red dot appears on your compass, showing the general direction of the enemy. You look over there, maybe even with a rifle scope, and you can't see a damn thing. But most of the time, your squad will take care of them until you get up where the trap doors are. So once you get to the top of the hill, you go down those same trap doors and wander through the bunkers, shooting everybody who gets in your way. Good stuff. So next you find yourself in the forests of Austria, preparing to infiltrate a castle. We have an agent undercover in there, and your job is to get some crucial Nazi archives from her, and then help her get out of there. But first you have to get to a cabin on the road to the castle where a truck has stopped. You need to get the driver's uniform and papers, and keep the guards at the cabin from warning the castle that they're under attack. This mission is tricky, because you have to figure out how to keep the guards from warning the castle. You also have to get the driver's items in their proper condition. If you shoot him, it's mission failure. It took me a while to figure out why. Duh! Blood on the uniform might tip the guys at the castle off that something is wrong. So you have to capture him, but if you don't do it right, there's a good chance he'll hop in the truck and drive away before you can. In any case, once you've cut the phone line, eliminated the soldiers, and taken the driver prisoner, you need to decide which of your soldiers will have the uniform and the papers, because only one man will actually be going into the castle. At the castle, your disguise holds up pretty well unless either A, you do something suspicious, or B, you're carrying any non-German gear. That means if you still have your backpack, get rid of it. If you have any ammo for your British weapon, get rid of it. If you have any British grenades, get rid of them. And whatever you do, don't shoot anybody until you've made contact with the agent and gotten the archives. After that, it's open season. You hand the papers in, then go across the courtyard to the warehouse and wait for some soldiers to come in and start unloading the truck. Now it's time to go find your agent, Elizabeth Salter. The map doesn't show you where she is. Really, it doesn't tell you much of anything. So you have to sort of wander around, checking every room you can without arousing suspicion until you find her. In the end, she's pretty easy to spot because she's the only woman in the place. You make contact with her and she leads you to the archives. Just as you get the papers you need, some Germans come in and the shooting starts. This is where I like to arm Elizabeth. I usually take out as many of the Germans around me as I can, then find an MP40 and some ammo and give it to her. Then it's your basic running firefight to get to the gate. There are a few optional objectives, most notably finding some stolen paintings in a hidden closet and taking them with you. But the main goals are to get to the gate and keep Elizabeth Salter alive. Fortunately for you, she's just as good a shot as you are and not afraid to prove it. That's why I like to give her a nice hefty weapon. She'll make good use of it. Next, you're off to an old French fortress on the coast. The Germans have been using it to harass Allied shipping convoys, so you're supposed to go in and destroy the big guns they've been using. Here's part of the briefing.
Many attempts to seize and secure the fortress have been carried out, and all have failed. Now, it's your turn.
All attempts have failed, so now it's your turn. Isn't that the most encouraging thing you've heard all day? Dude, find a better way to say it! This is the second chance to use your aqualung, but basically it's just to get you inside the place. Once you're in, you abandon it. After that, the gameplay is straightforward, except that you might or might not have enough explosives with you to take out all the guns. If you don't, the Germans conveniently have a bunch of them stored downstairs, so you can just grab what you need. No wonder they lost the war. Then it's on to Poland, where you're supposed to rescue a resistance member who has some crucial information. Unfortunately, you're too late and the Germans have tortured the information out of him. The Polish underground has blown up the train carrying the German officer who has the information, so next you get to go to the wrecked train and capture this officer. After that, you have to clear out a nearby villa so you can turn him over to the Americans. When you do that, the Americans have yet another mission for you. I really can't cover all the missions because there's just so many of them and we'd be here all day. From this point on, we do get a story arc of sorts. The Nazis know they're losing the war, and some of them have taken to gathering up various looted treasures with a view to spiriting the stuff out of the country to a more favorable climate where they can live like kings for the rest of their lives and never have to answer for their atrocities. You intercept a group of Germans that are trying to take over a town where a lot of the stuff's been stashed. You get an optional objective if you actually find a room full of the goodies. Finally, you track the leader of this conspiracy to a bunker in Czechoslovakia, take him down, and recover documentation about where the goodies are. If you move fast enough at the beginning of this mission, you can take over this tank and use it to eliminate the rest of the Germans outside the bunker. Like the Jeep, you can control its movements even when you're not in the driver's seat, like here where I'm actually operating the cannon. Unfortunately, at the very end of this final mission, the Russians show up. They want the documents and hence the loot, so you get to fight them at the very end. The game ends with some newsreel footage about the end of the war and an extensive tribute to the SAS. This one was successful enough that it spawned an add-on called Saber Squadron. It continues the quality of the main game and has some really cool missions. Apparently, there were some glitches in the original game as well, so there are a few patches that you can download to fix them. I have trouble recommending the patches though, because at least in my experience, after a couple of minutes playing in regular mode, for some reason the video kicks into binocular view and you can't get it out. It's way beyond weird, and the game is fun, playable, and has huge replay value without the patches. So use your own judgment about that. Both the main game and Saber Squadron also have different play modes, including Lone Wolf, where you're a one-man operation and have to do all the missions on your own, and Carnage mode, where a counter at the top of the screen tells you how many enemies are left. Needless to say, you have to kill or capture all of them in addition to all the other objectives. In the regular campaign mode, it is possible in several cases to complete the mission without killing all of the enemy. Not in Carnage mode. The nice part is, once you get down to where there's one left, your map will show you where he is so you can go find him and take care of him. That's good, because he's usually 1.5 miles away hiding in a corner or something. I really can't say enough good things about this game. As I said in my review of the first game, they literally fixed everything that was wrong and made a game that I hope will endure for a long, long time, like the SAS itself. We'll never really know how much of our freedom we owe to these men, or how many of them paid the ultimate price to secure that freedom for us. This game is an outstanding tribute to them. Sadly, it's out of production, but there are plenty of copies to be had out there on auction sites, at used game stores, or at several online outlets. Pick it up, play it, and then express your thanks to these gallant men who gave everything they had to bring us a better world. They're a big reason why I have the freedom to say, I'm Irving and I have no life, just like you.
There's a man who leads a life of danger. Everyone he meets, he stays a stranger. Now that every move he makes, another chance he takes. The odds are he won't live to see tomorrow. Secret agent man, are they giving you a number? I know they're taking away your name.
You have to get incredibly creative, and your head is in the way.
Sorry.